Welcome back to the Leeds Rhinos Podcast, episode 57. My name is Phil Daly. I'm the head of media and PR, and I'm delighted to be joined by a Leeds Rhinos Podcast favourite, assistant coach Jamie Langley, and we'll be chatting to Jamie about Thursday's disappointing loss against the Catalans Dragons here at AMT Headingley, and looking ahead to this Friday's big clash over at Wigan Warriors as we bring down the curtain on the regular season in the Betfred Super League and look ahead to one of the most exciting playoff series to come, with all the teams really hitting their straps over recent weeks. Looking forward to two teams making that Betfred Super League Grand Final at Old Trafford in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll look ahead to that. Please remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, and remember to push that notification button to make sure you get told as soon as each new episode drops, whether it's the Leeds Rhinos Podcast, our match review edition on a Monday, or our Thursday Q&A editions, or of course the great content that Jared O'Connor and Tom Nicholson-Watton are putting on the Knock On Effect podcast, or whether it's Box 2 where Jamie Jones-Buchanan gets in the chair and gets under the skin of our guests to find out what's happening throughout their lives, and gives great insight into so many wonderful things around Leeds Rugby League and our history. Jamie, looking back on Thursday's game, we went into it with great hope and expectation that we were going to set things up for the final round, but it wasn't to be. Catalans produced probably their best performance of the season, and it came up with defeat.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes the problem with hope and expectation. Having too much of it and you can get let down, can't you? Yeah, when we saw their squad get announced, we thought it's probably the strongest squad that they announced in recent times. You know, they've been struggling with injuries, and Joel's been playing about with different combinations, obviously. But as soon as we saw that Luke Keary were in there, and T.O. and some of their mainstay forwards, a couple of their back rowers, we knew it was going to be a tough game. We knew it was, and it proved to be true. We weren't at our best, and we allowed ourselves to get frustrated in that game. Now, when you preview Catalans, and you know it's going to be a physical battle because we've always got a big forward pack, but you put the extra dimension of Keary and Farge in there, who've very good kicking games, very astute. Bichet's been really, really good with them out back as well. So they go into a game with no pressure, and it's all high risk sort of plays, and that's what they got us with. You know, they attempted, I think, 4 40-20s, a couple of 20-40s, and ordinarily you probably wouldn't see those pictures on a week-to-week basis because they're high-risk, high-reward style plays. But they were just obviously chancing their arm almost every set. So defensively, like, we managed to lock them in, like, inside their half, like probably in excess of 16 times, which is a lot. Like, it's a lot if you look at the statistics week on week. But they're able to get themselves out of trouble with those sort of plays. And you know, we've got some fixes and fault correction around it with our backfield. We certainly want our best in certain areas, and our backfield was one of those areas, and the boys have taken ownership of that this morning. So lots of fault correction, which is great because it was a really productive review of the game this morning. But I don't want to take anything away from Catalan because, you know, they put us in them situations, like the back-to-back sets we had to defend early doors from the 40-20s, the short dropout that Bichet managed to get back through a lack of concentration from us at the front line. And it's stuff that you think, you know, like, we shouldn't be making those errors, but it does happen in rugby league. But at least we're getting the fixes and the fault correction now before we get into the business end. It was just really disappointing, Phil, because we'd spoke all week in the lead-up about it being, if we won that game, we knew we were going to be guaranteed a home semi, but we wanted to repay our support base and our fans with that home semi-final. And we spoke about it so much, and then when we didn't quite get the result, and then we were sort of waiting on other results around us, that, you know, if that wouldn't have gone our way and we wouldn't have got that home semi, it'd have been even more disappointing. Obviously for ourselves, but for our fan base as well. We just felt like they deserved that reward, and, you know, fortunately it fell in our favour with Lee tipping Saints over. So we have got that home semi-final, but yeah, it would have been gutting to not get that on the back of a performance like that. But again, all credit to Catalans because they came with nothing to lose, and they executed a game plan, and they scrambled hard as well. Like, I think there were 3 or 4 literally try-saving tackles as well, which just led to our increased frustration throughout the game.
Yeah, I think it could have been. We don't know how the game would have panned out, but we had a fantastic opportunity right from the kickoff where the ball goes out. We've got a set of 6 basically on their line, and you do wonder, had we managed to get a score then, how they would have reacted that, because they've been on a tough run recently.
Yeah, and there's big moments in games. When we played Catalan away in round 4, and Jake scores early off a kick, and it gets deemed offside, I think it was, or something along those lines anyway. And then you compound that then with, we had a set on their line. We have a couple of poor line plays. Mick carries it on last. He saw the fullback in there as a cue, thought he'd have a dabble, but that's not our system. Like, our system is to get the ball to the halves on last play, regardless, because we know we're really good on last plays. We scored a lot of tries on last plays. We didn't do that. We didn't stick to script on that particular play. And that could just be like a little bit of frustration, just like a 1 or 2%, creeping in. But then you compound that with like a 7 tackle set, and then they get the dropout back off one of our repeat sets, and then they get a 40-20, and then another 40-20, and then we defend our goal line. They get a 6 again from an error from Ganza, then they get a 6 again from Chris Hankinson shutting a play down. So it's like the compound effect of all those moments just led to our increased frustration, and probably it built their confidence and momentum as well, so that the scales were tipping a little bit, and we need to be better than that. We need to be better at responding and getting it back and sticking to process and being patient, because we said at 20 minutes to go, the score was 10-4. Like, the game's more than winnable for us from there, but we found ways to lose it. And that's what's frustrating, but also that's what I meant by it's a really productive review this morning, because whenever we've had games like that, we've generally responded pretty well. So sometimes, I'd never say that you need that, but it is always it's a good exercise to go through that, so we can get the fault correction, we can learn from it, and hopefully not make those mistakes again for this run-in.
Yeah, I mean, just one of those plays is something you normally see when a team's chasing the game in the final 5 minutes of a match, and they did them all. Did about 6 or 7 of them in one game. And I suppose going into the do and die nature of playoff rugby, pretty good, as you say, to get those fixes there, see that now and go, right, we need to be on for this. Yeah,
lads were really disappointed. Like, they were disappointed, and not all, because some of the lads individually at least, like, they did the jobs, they performed and they did the jobs, and it wasn't through lack of physicality or effort, because we worked hard, we tried hard, and we were physical in that game. As I said, we got 16 red lines, so like our defence, like, for the most part, barring the 2 really really soft tries that we conceded, which weren't good enough, and the boys know that was pretty good across the 80 minutes, but. It was just the moments. You get a 7 tackle set on their line. Chris Hankinson gets tackled in the corner. Then we turn the ball over on 0 tackle. Like trying to score a try, and then we do similar on tackle 4, where instead of just getting to the end of the set, being patient, we're trying to score, and it's like we didn't need to. And because they were scrambling really hard, I think that led to our frustration. But as we said, if you just complete maybe 2 or 3 more sets in that game, like, we get to the end of that tackle count, we know that something can happen positive for us. And yeah, credit to them, they did enough to keep repelling us, and they'll be really happy with their performance and how they kept turning up for each other. But as frustrating as it was for us, we still, we got away relatively unscathed in terms of we get that home semi, and we come away with some valuable lessons as well. Now, the boys were really disappointed, don't get me wrong, but that's the nature of sport, and you've got to bounce back. A week's a long time in rugby league, but the good thing is you generally get to put your fixes right within 7 days or so we get to move on from it and hopefully progress in the right direction from here.
And Brad's spoken recent weeks about the team finding different ways to win. Perhaps if they're not playing well, but finding our defence has really been to the fore in recent weeks as well. The fact that we didn't stick to our game plan and it didn't go our way, is that almost an even better learning lesson, that we need the reason why we have a game plan, the reason why we have a style is to give us the best chance of winning games. We can't deviate too far away from that, because this is what can happen when a team shows up as Catalans did.
Yeah, 100%. We spoke about it day 1 of pre-season, and we've spoke about it every week since, about us defining our identity, our game model, our blueprint. And are we living up to that on a weekly basis? Are we improving in certain areas? Are we maintaining in certain areas? And that's the ongoing challenge, because it's such a dynamic sport, rugby league. There's so many factors that contribute to that 80 minutes on a weekend, and there's so many factors that contribute within that 80 minutes on a weekend as well that can affect the outcome of the game. And that's why you have a blueprint and a game model and an identity to stick to. And we know that if we can execute that, or at least get within 80% of it, we give ourselves a damn good chance of winning games of rugby league. If we don't, and I suppose the further we regress from that, it's harder to win. Certainly if every other team are trying to do the same, by the way, as well. Like they're trying to be as effective in their game model as we are in ours. But we know on our day, because like we believe in like our physicality, our ability to stay in the fight, our resilience, like we're a fit team. So we've got all the ingredients. If you get the game plan right and the game model right, we're very difficult to beat. And it's usually, and that's why Ulcar have been so good and Wigan are so good on the day, because they're just incredibly hard to beat, because they know what works for them and they stick to it. And you've got to go out there and be almost immaculate to beat them. Like at the weekend, we were far from that. And again, not taking any away from Catalans on the day, because they did what they had to do, and it's probably best they performed in a while. But it was far below what we expect of ourselves. So yeah, it just brings it back to the relevance of, like, boys, this is, it's really simple. We get this right, or at least majority of it right, then we're going to give yourself a good chance of winning and being incredibly hard to beat. And they spoke about that. The lads spoke about it straight after the game. They spoke about it this morning. They know that. But again, it's, we're dealing with human beings, and with that comes human error, and we can't be perfect all the time. So sometimes you do need a kick up the backside to get you back in the right direction.
I thought it was telling after the game, without giving too much away, but the people who were leading that discussion were our senior players. That when I think back to sort of this time last year, the people we've got within the group now have experienced it. They know what it takes to particularly this time of year, what's required. And those senior players are, I think, giving reassurance to the rest of the guys. Look, just hold your nerve and be ready to face what comes. Yeah,
we are lucky. Well, I say we're lucky. We're fortunate that we've got some experience in the room, and we've got lads who've been there and done it on multiple occasions as well. And they know what it takes, and generally it's nothing spectacular. It's just doing what you do consistently well over a period of time and sticking to the script. And it sounds very cliche, doesn't it? But that's what it takes. If you've got the cattle and you've got the quality of players and the talent to be able to do it, then that's what it takes. And generally it is just sometimes individual error that can be the difference and deciding factor in those crunch games. So we have got the experience. We know what we need to do. And we know we can do it, because we've got the evidence to suggest we can do it throughout the whole season. Now we're 26 rounds in, and plus the cup games, and we're still discovering stuff about ourselves. But we also know very clearly what it requires of this Leeds Rhinos team for us to be at its best. So we've established that. We just need to make sure that we execute and deliver on it.
And talking about execution, Ryan Hall's try. There aren't many people you'd put your mortgage on to get that down, but Ryan would certainly be that the wherewithal to get the ball and then know he had to get it down without going into touch. It was a classic Ryan Hall try.
It was, yeah, great execution, lovely way to kick from Crofty. He spotted the space there, he picked the best space. All is on the end of the line, and he's finished a handful of them in his career, hasn't he? But again, 2 plays earlier, we've got an opportunity to play Sammy out back on a shape, and unless they come up with another miraculous last-ditch tackle, Sammy's probably walking in at posts. We kicked that's 6 points, so it's 10-6, probably more scoreboard pressure on them. But we missed that opportunity. So, again, it was just another sign that we weren't quite concentrating or thinking clearly, or were slightly frustrated. Because generally we've been icing those opportunities. And we just, as I said, mate, we found ways to make it difficult for ourselves in those situations. But hell of a finish. At 10-4, you'd still be confident there, with loads of time on the clock, that we'll be able to go on and put ourselves in a position to win that game. Which we didn't, but you get the learns and you move on, and we will do.
2 positives, players returning from injury. Great to see Tom Holroyd back out there after his scaphoid injury, and Max Simpson getting the fully 80 in.
Yeah, Max. Yeah, I mean, Max has done a great job. He's been well documented. He's been on the sidelines for quite a long time, but the kid's done really well. He's showed a lot of resilience, and he plays with a real high level of physicality, Max, like he rips in, he does in training as he does in games. He's 100% on everything. So, it was great to get him back in. Obviously, got that head knock against Hull FC. He had that stand-down period, came back, and I thought he was one of our better players, Max. Like, he worked incredibly hard. He led the stats in a few areas, certainly in our effort areas as well. So, he's going to be a hell of a player, Max. I just hope that he gets a string of games together, which we all do, which I'm sure he will from now, obviously. And good to see him back out there. Tom, been a frustrating time for Tom, been on the sidelines. I thought he was one of our best performers up to that point when he got that injury. And the tricky ones, them wrist injuries, and he'd had a similar injury on his other hand as well. So, he knew the process, but you also know they can be quite delicate and tricky, those scaphoid injuries, when it's a scaphoid bone to heal up. So, we've had to be really cautious with him. He got the all clear on the Monday of that week, so he'd not really done a great deal of training, Tom, building into the Catalans game. So he'd probably done enough to get him to that point without putting himself at risk. And then he got the all clear on the Monday, so it was a case of, well, hey, good to go, mate. And credit to him, he put his hand up and he's like, yeah, I'm good to go. So he, ticked off what he needed to tick off from a medical perspective and threw himself out there. And I thought his first stint were really good. It were a bit rusty in certain areas, which I'm sure he'll admit, but he's just great to get him back out there because he's so impactful for us. And as I say, he was one of our form players going into the final third of the season. So I'm sure we'll see him back up to full speed in no time.
It was great to see after the game the fans hanging around and waiting, and the lads going around signing those autographs. As disappointed everyone was with the result, everyone understands where this team's come from in the last year, and hopefully what lies ahead. It was nice to see that a bit of back in the boys even after a disappointing loss. Yeah,
it was, and it would have been nice to have a win and get the result, to be able to do that on the back of it. But we had a quick hot debrief straight away in the changing rooms. The boys got in quick. We addressed it. We spoke about it. People said what they needed to say, and then the lads got straight back out to see the fans. And like I touched on earlier, fans have been unbelievable all year. We've turned out in numbers. I think there were 15,000 there again, which is no mean feat when you're playing Catalans in a game that's not got much riding on it for them, certainly in terms of the league. And they've been fantastic, they really have. And it was good to see the fans stick out, the players stay around as well to repay them. And I'm just really glad that we've got that home prelim as well as a reward to our fan base, who've been incredible all year. And as you say, last few years it's probably not gone to plan as you would expect, and we've certainly, I think we've done all right so far. There's a lot more in us, a lot more growth, but as you say, from where we've probably come to where we are at this point, I think there's a good feeling around the place, certainly internally and externally as well, and hopefully we can keep putting our best foot forward in these games to come. Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable statistically when you look at it. It's our first home playoff game since the 2017 semi-final. We beat Hull FC on the way to winning our last grand final. So it's been a long time since the fans have been able to come to a win or bust playoff game here at AMT Tennis. So we're all looking forward to that. Obviously, there were a few people again missing on the Thursday night against Catalans. Jake Connor. We know the influence he's had on the side this year. Do you think that had a bearing on how we played, missing someone as crucial as that? Yeah, possibly. It always does when you have to mix your spine around a little bit. Just that cohesion that you start to build over the year. I thought Jake, Crofty and Lockie and Jock have started to form a really good combination in the middle of the field for us. And obviously having Jake removed from that, Sinny's come in. Sinny's done a pretty good job, I thought. He came out, he did what we asked of him. But it's always going to disrupt you. It doesn't matter who you are. You look at any team across the comp, you take out one of their key spine members. You take a Lockie Lamb out of Lee, you take a Bevan French out of Wigan, you take an Aidan Caesar out of Hull, whoever. They're all influential players. So it's going to imbalance your team to a certain extent. Now, there's no excuses in there at all because, we all know our plan and we all know what's required of it. But Jake, he's had a hell of a season, hasn't he? So you take away his influence, and I think he's, top 3 or top 2 in terms of try assists, and he'll be right up there with line break assists and things like that. So you take a player who's pivotal as that out of your side, it's gonna impact you. But it's the right decision, mate. He had, it was well documented. he had sore ribs and they can take a while to settle down, as you well know. So, we felt like that was the right decision at the time. And what it has done, it's got Cine some valuable time as well, because you never know when someone's going to have to step up. Give Crofty an opportunity to be a bit more forceful and a bit more responsibility in terms of managing the team and directing the team around the field. And you never know. Like, can happen in these next 4 or 5 games, or however long it is. So you've got to be able to rely on people. So it's good to get them game time regardless.
And given the game against Catalans, is it good that we've got another game in the regular season before we get the playoffs, so we can sort of put that one to bed, hopefully against Wigan this week? Performance-wise, results will take care of itself. We don't know what team they're going to field or anything else at this stage, but performance-wise, the fact we've got another 80 minutes before we go into the playoffs. Yeah,
I would say so. Yeah, definitely. It gives you an opportunity to continue to build and work on your cohesion, and it gives you an opportunity, as I spoke about previously, to work on some of that fault correction from the previous game, which we know there were plenty. So and everybody will be talking about momentum at this time of year, going into the playoffs with momentum. And all the successful teams who've done well in the playoffs and won grand finals have always had momentum going into the playoffs. I know in 2022 when Leeds went on that bit of a run of games, 2005 when we won it with Bradford, I think we went on a run of 10 or 11 wins going into that grand final against Leeds. So you get that momentum, you build that confidence, you almost feel like impervious to anything really that's thrown at you. So we're fortunate we've got that game against Wigan. It's going to be a great test for us because they are arguably the form team now. They've got French back in, they've got December back in. You knew that as soon as that, like we said it all year, like when you've got your key personnel who are not available, teams are, they're not going to be at the best. But you chuck Bevan French back in there alongside Field, and people were criticising Harry Smith a little bit and stuff. And Harry's a fantastic player, but you chuck them other guys in the mix, and he just, his game just flourishes. And they're a really good opposition. They'll be looking to build momentum just the same as we will. So it's a game that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, it's interesting this time of year, particularly because it looks like the positions, there might be a little bit of changing, but they're sort of getting cemented into place now. Teams coming up performance, obviously Wigan had a big win against Cass coming on the back of their derby win against Wakefield. You've got Wakefield then who turned that around and came with a really strong performance against Hull KR. Hull FC, 3 players banned and injuries and all that sort of thing, and Warrington you think are going to get a response after their performances, and Hull come up with a big performance. It's a funny old time of year, isn't it, for results? You can't really second guess what teams are going to do.
No, you can't, and nor should you. Yeah, you can only focus on what you can. Focus on yourselves, what's going on inside these 4 walls. You get your processes right in the week and your preparation right, and you go out and you look to perform at your best, and that's all you can do every single week. And you can't worry about what other teams are doing and who's beating who and where you're going to sit. You just got to go out and worry about yourselves. And as you say, like there's going to be results that surprise you. And again, like the expectation that we spoke about at the start, you expect certain teams to win, and it doesn't always work that way. It really doesn't. So you just got to focus on the internal factors and not the external, because it's all just everything else outside these 4 walls is just distractions and white noise. And if that could just take away like 1 or 2% from your focus or your concentration, whatever, then it's not helpful. So we just need to focus on what we're doing. We'll get us prep right this week going into the Wigan game. Look to put in a good performance against Wigan, and then you focus on the next job thereafter and make sure we get us prep right again.
From your playing days, obviously it's the last game of the season this week, and 4 of the games kicking off at the same time, so we won't know what other teams' results have been at that stage. But from your playing days, were you ever in that situation where you were wanting to hear what other results were, and do players ever get to find out what's happening at other games whilst you're in the thick of it on the field?
Not in my experience, no. I never found myself in that position, thankfully. I don't know how it'd work, to be honest. Maybe, like when I was coaching at London Broncos when we were in Super League, it was the last game of the season. Yeah. But we needed to win regardless. We were playing Wakefield away. I think Hull KR were playing someone else. Might have been Huddersfield or something like that. And I think we needed to win. If we lost, we knew we were down. Yeah. If we won and the other team lost, I think there were a chance of us staying up. And that's the only time I reckon I've confronted it. But again, it's it's a distraction, isn't it? You can only control what you can and focus on what you can, and everything else will take care of itself. But yeah, I think it's right that all the games should be played at the same time on the same day. Like you've got, obviously, Wigan have still a chance of finishing top and things like that. So there's definitely a little bit of moving and shaking to be had. Like obviously Wakey playing Salford, and LFC will have a close eye on that one, won't they? We'll just see how it lands. But for us, it's just about us. Like it's very, very seldom I'll look at the league tables and be studying it, and people, text you and, you need to do this and this, and I'm like, well, thanks for letting me know, because I just want to win the game this weekend, and that's all you're bothered about.
Yeah, and looking ahead to this weekend, Wigan, they're a side who, as you mentioned, they're going for, hope they'll be trying to get that top spot, and we've had a couple of battles with them in recent times. What are you expecting from them?
Good team, very well coached. They know when to peak at the right time of the season. Like there's no point playing your best rugby in rounds 1 to 10 and just having no room for improvement there, and then limping into playoffs. Like they always seem to get out of the blocks well. They do enough, get themselves in a good position. Like the last couple of years, historically, they have had injuries to key personnel. Like Bevan's not been in, or Jai Field's not been in, or someone's missed out for various reasons. But they seem to get out of the blocks well enough to put themselves in a position where they can accommodate that. And then come the run-in, they usually all guns blazing out there. Yeah. And like defensively, they usually tighten up around this time of year, like really zone in. Lockers does a good job with them with that. And as I've said earlier, they've just got threats because of the personnel they've got. Like the shapes, the run, and everything else are going to challenge you. But it's just the individual threats that someone like a French or a Field or a Harry Smith with his kicking game, and Assemble with his physicality, whoever it may be, like they've got a lot of individual threats. So you just got to be across it, because that's the separating factor a lot of time in these big games. Like look at the grand final last year. Arguably, I were at that game. I think ball in play first 9 minutes, ball didn't come out of play. It were an attempted 40-20 from Harry Smith that I think the ball goes off at sideline. That was the first break. It might have been 8.5 minutes. So they've gone set for set for set. Arguably, OKR were the dominant team in that first 10-15 minutes. And then French comes up with a bit of magic, and before you know it, you're 6-0 down in a game where points are going to be sparse. Yeah. And they just know how to do it this time of year. And as I said before, like they're going to be 8-9 out of 10 in every department, and you're going to have to go and beat them. They ain't going to beat themselves. Certainly not this time of year, because they just know how to do it. They've had that same squad together now for probably best part of 4 or 5 years. Same personnel. When you look at the turnover at the end of every season, it might be 1 in, 1 out, and that's it. Same coaching staff with Matt and Lockers and Tommy, and they've got my old mate involved, Deco, who'll be adding something there, I've no doubt. It'd be good to catch up with him actually on the weekend. And they're just they know what they're doing, and they'll be certainly in the mixer as you'd expect.
Yeah, we can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic game. Almost the playoffs starting a week early. Make sure you get over there if you're travelling over. Tickets and travel are still on sale now at tickets.therhinos.co.uk. Get over there and support the boys. We've had some great nights over at Wigan in recent times, and it should be a packed Leeds fans travelling over there. So make sure you get behind the boys, get there. And then, of course, once we know the results on Friday night and the final makeup of the Betfred Super League table, and we know who we've got in that playoffs and when that is, we'll put out all the ticket details. Go to therhinos.co.uk. We'll have all the ticket details of when we'll be playing, what day, what time kickoff, once things are all firmed up. So make sure you're there. We cannot wait for this home playoff game. It's been too long since we've had one of these big nights at AMT Headingley, and we need you all here. So make sure once we get that date confirmed, you get yourself booked in and get all your friends, your family down here, get the support of the boys, because it's do or die, and we want to continue the road to Old Trafford in a massive playoff game. Thanks for joining us, Langers. Remember, wherever you get your podcast, to subscribe to stay in touch with all things Rhinos. Leave us a 5-star review so we can continue to spread the word about all things Leeds Rhinos and Rugby League. We'll be back on Thursday with a Q&A edition. We look forward to seeing you then. Until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.